All right, let's start off by saying you are tuned into LocalMotion here on 91.3 WVKR. Let's get my guest on the phone. Hey, Pete.
Yeah.
Hi, perfect. Always a good sign when I don't disconnect, you know?
Okay.
Let me start off here by letting the listeners know a little bit about you by a brief introduction, if I may. With a music career spanning decades, keyboardist, composer, and record producer Pete Levin has performed and recorded with hundreds of musicians, including Gil Evans, Paul Simon, Annie Lennox, Miles Davis, David Sanborn, Jaco Pastorius, just to name a few. He's performed for film and television scores, including Missing in Action, Lean on Me, Silver Bullet, The Color of Money, Star Trek are just a few. He'll be touring in his jazz quartet, the Levin Brothers, which is co-led with his brother Tony Levin, and will be in our area at the Falcon in Marlborough, Daryl's House Club in Pauling, and the Bearsville Theater in Woodstock. And with that, a warm, wholehearted welcome back to LocalMotion, Mr. Pete Levin.
Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome. Yeah.
I used to joke that I don't remember doing half of that stuff.
You did it all, Pete. It's all on the internet, you know?
I did. Wow.
It has to be true if that's the case.
It has to be. You believe everything you see on the internet.
Yeah. So this is my first show, you know, because I do it on Wednesdays, and because I know you were a friend, I just want to talk for just a brief minute about Tommy Keegan, who a big, you know, mentor here in the Hudson Valley to musicians, and just, I know you guys had such a great relationship. If you would just talk for a minute about how you met Tommy and all your times at Keegan Ales in Kingston.
Well, I met Tommy, I guess indirectly, through Joe Beesmer, who's also gone. But when I moved up to this area, it's been 18 years now, I started playing with a band, a local band, Uncle Funk, which was led by Joe Beesmer. It had Jesse Gress and my brother, Tony, Jerry Marotta was in the band. It was just a fun band. We played maybe 3 times a year. And I think one of the first places we played was Keegan Ales. And that's when I met Tommy, and I got to learn more about him over time, of how supportive he was of really the whole community, everything that he would do. And, of course, he always had live music. And, back at that point, there was no lounge specifically. Yep. There was no bar, and not the outside thing that he's doing now. But the back room, this huge room with all the brewing equipment in it, the tanks and everything, they would set up a stage in one end of the room and just let people come in. And we would play. I played there many times that way, as did many other local musicians.
Yeah.
And that it was kind of Tommy, but he'd always be the first one to step up. You know, when there's a fundraiser or just something in the community that needed support, and Tommy would be there. It was a shock losing him this way. He was 50.
Yeah.
Which amazing. I'm good friends with his ex-wife. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Christy, who was a wonderful physical therapist. She keeps my body from falling apart.
Oh, nice.
Because they're just stunned. The family is just stunned. Everybody is, really. So very, very.
Yeah, I think
he'll be missed greatly.
He certainly will be. And the vibe at Keegan Ales, I mean, I started going in the 90s to see Uncle Funk, quite honestly. And just, I don't know, it was always such a great atmosphere there. And just like you said, always music. He loved the music. I remember going into the back room, just like you stated. And, you know, just, it's a great place. It's a great place. And I think the entire community, the word shocked is understated. We don't have a word, I don't know, that's greater than shocked, but it definitely was a shock to have happened just this past weekend. So I just wanted to quickly honor Tommy because I know you had a relationship with him as well. So thank you for that, Pete. We appreciate that. So I always like to start, and you've been on several times, so I'm not going to go into too much history other than I love the story that you, of course, grew up in Brookline, Massachusetts, and your instrument as a teenager was a French horn. You're not known to be a French horn player now. If you would just talk a little bit about how you started with the French horn. Why the French horn, first of all?
I started in high school. I don't remember why. I don't. Well, we're talking about more than a year ago now.
2.
I don't remember, but I got pretty good at it. It got me into college. I went to Boston University Music School. Did well there. Decided I was going to be a music teacher, public school, and decided I wanted to have more music experience. So I came to New York. I was at Juilliard for a couple of years. I did well there. I was the first horn in one of the school orchestras, which are incredible orchestras. And I got out of there, and I started doing studio work in New York on French horn, and was known for that. But I also started experiment with synthesizers.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere during the 70s, I just made a complete switch.
From what I read, it was like when you were part of the Gil Evans Orchestra.
That was part of it. I got my first synthesizer, a Moog, a Mini Moog, in 1973. And I was playing with Gil at that point. I was his French horn player. And I brought it to Gil apartment once to show it to him, because great, you can make all these crazy sounds. And he said, bring it to a gig. I said, a gig? What? This is this is the man who orchestrated Miles Davis albums, Sketches of Spain, Porgy and Bess, and he wants to hear this thing which I would describe it making weenie weenie and bop bop noises. And he said, sure, bring it. So I brought it, and I was messing around. Sometimes I would play the lead line with the horns. And he liked it. He said, no, do more of that. You never mind. I'll get another horn player. Just do that. And that was it. I changed careers right there.
Do you ever pick up the French horn anymore, Pete?
No, I don't own it. I sold it in 1980, I think. I could. If somebody handed me one, I'd last about 15 seconds.
Be like, hey, what is this? I don't remember. But yeah, nice. So a lot of time spent with Gil Evans. You also had 8 years with Jimmy
Chufree. Yes.
Chufree. I couldn't pronounce the name correctly. So yeah. So 8 years with that. And during that time, I mean, Pete, when one looks at your discography, we could spend the entire time talking just about that.
Oh, dear.
Which we won't, but it is so impressive. And how you got into playing with all the people that you played with is just, astounding, because you were a session player, right, in New York.
Yes, for many years. That scene, the session scene, the recording in New York City was thriving during the 70s. I described it once. I was playing in it's not that long ago. I was playing a gig in the Iridium with a trio, an organ trio, Dave Stryker and Lenny White, I think. Mm-hmm. And I just started rambling to the audience. I did my little I'll sign the CDs pitch, and I started talking about how I met Lenny White, which was on a Gil Evans gig. But I was reminiscing that the 70s was a lousy decade for music. I mean, it was dominated by disco and crap. Your jazz didn't know where it was going. Classical was always good, of course, but disco was in everything. I was playing on 2, 3, 4 jingles a week, mm-hmm. And almost all of them would be disco. I'm on disco records that I've forgotten about. There was something for Donna Summer, but
really,
I don't even think they're on. I didn't do that part of my discography. I try to update it now, but I played. I don't even remember what I played on back then. It was just going from studio to studio all day.
Wow.
So as I described it to the audience, it was a lousy decade for music, but it was a great decade for musicians. Everybody was working. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of work, and at that point, I met so many people in studios. Just a long list, hundreds and hundreds of musicians, and I would get called to play on an album for somebody famous. And
let's talk about somebody like Miles Davis.
Very unusual. I played with him very briefly, so it's almost not fair to say, hey, I played with Miles. We were on tours at the same time, and I did some studio sessions with him. very, very. God, I don't know where to start. You asked me to talk about Tommy Keegan, but Miles. Miles changed the way his instrument is played.
Right.
There's something, and you can't say that about more than a half a dozen musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And you'd have to think hard to come up with that. He was always on the cutting edge of things musically. Everybody was making music and putting bands together and trying to emulate what he was doing. And by the time you figured it out, Miles was onto something else. As a band leader, I mean, a long list of people who played with him over, really for periods of time, unlike myself. But it came out, it was, the way I talk about my 16 years with Gil Evans was like I was going to school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I graduated Boston, Juilliard, now I'm going to the school of Gil Evans.
Mm-hmm. You got your PhD.
It was like that from Miles. Everybody I've spoken to friends who played with him for long periods of time regarded him that way. Mm-hmm. He had a reputation for being really nasty and not supportive, and that was not true at all. Mm-hmm. The films about him are pure fantasy Hollywood. What was the one where Miles is carrying a gun and he's in a car chase going through New York City? I can't remember what that was. It's completely ridiculous.
Right.
But he was a musical god.
Yeah, a musical genius, 100%, absolutely. Yeah. And you had Jaco Pastorius as well, another one.
Jaco, yeah. We played together a lot. We traveled together a lot. We hung out a lot in New York. Completely unique person. And for what I was just saying about Miles, Jaco, came on the scene, and everybody who was playing bass had to go stop and say, "Whoa, wait a minute! You can do that?
Right? Mm-hmm.
Wow!
Mm-hmm.
Let me try that." And then nobody could do it, or do it as well. Certainly, but Jaco was a whirlwind, a force of nature that just was dropped into our midst,
just for a little while,
like a tornado, and then he was gone.
Then he was gone. Yeah.
But I have a lot of Jaco stories. Most of them seem depressing now, and I think that Jaco was he was bipolar. Mm-hmm. So he was certifiable, but a lot of the stories you hear about him, his craziness, is best to stop telling those stories. It's the good stories that
we should live on with. And look at Van Gogh was also bipolar, but look at his work, right? So
sure.
You have to leave things alone sometimes and just look at the works and take it from there. And one of my favorites, and then we'll move on to more other stuff, but Annie Lennox. I adore her career, her music, her style, everything about Annie Lennox.
She's great, and a terrific lady, great gal. I don't remember how long. Maybe spent close to a year with her. It was an unusual tour. I mean, she was done with her regular.
The Eurythmics.
Yeah, had done a solo album. Was married to a different guy and had two gorgeous little girls who were sometime were there on the tour. They're great. Annie, very soulful, very bluesy. Mm-hmm. Singer. I always thought she'd make a tremendous blues singer, but that's not what she was into. Her performances and her vocals are very carefully planned out. She wanted things to be right, correct. That would show her at her best, and she's very conscientious about that and worked hard at it. For me, I'm coming from the jazz world and playing with a pop group. I'm saying, come on, let's go hang out at a jazz club. You could sit in.
Right.
No, she doesn't do that.
No, she won't do that. Oh,
she's great. And some of the things I remember taking a long plane flight, and I'm sitting next to her, and you'd think we'd be talking about music or the road or something. No, we'd be talking about our kids.
Right.
It was like that. Terrific lady and very, very talented, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I follow her on social media, and I think she's wonderful, and I've always been very impressed with her earlier works, and even through now and everything that she's involved in. Pete, Mr. Pete Levin, you've also done a lot of scoring for film and television. How'd you get into that realm of the business?
People I knew, and a lot of that started and then went forward from the 70s, because during the 70s, I was one of the few multi-keyboard players in New York City who owned a lot of synthesizers and was willing to move around from studio to studio. There were other, very talented guys. Larry Fast, for instance, is a brilliant electronic keyboard player. By the mid-'80s and '90s, everybody was doing it. In the '70s, not so. And there was a call for that quite a bit in the studios. It was part of the decade of the '70s in music. The Star Wars films were happening then.
Right.
And there were jingles. So everybody knows, jingle is a commercial, radio or TV commercial. The music gets recorded first. It's a 1-hour session call, and really what they want is for the band to be in and out in 20 minutes. Just play it. It's only 60 seconds long. Sometimes you do a 30-second and a 60-second, and then get out of here so the studio can set up for the singers or the strings or whatever's coming next. That was life in the 70s. And sometimes I would get a call to come in and play on a jingle session, and they said, bring the Mini Moog, and my job would be to play the tom-tom fills for the drummer. So
wow.
they tell the drummer, don't touch your tom-tom. Pete will do it, because the electronic sounds would do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. So I would do that.
Right.
Yeah. Or they would want a laser shot, like on Star Wars, or a spaceship flying by. That's it. And I would set it up, push one key, and that's it. Thank you very much. Mini Moog's back in the case, and I'd walk out, and that was it. But from that point, I got to know people. I got to know composers, and ended up doing longer form sessions, films or albums, which are great. A composer that I hooked up with in the 70s, Jay Chataway, a very, very talented arranger and composer. I met him because he was producing and arranging for Maynard Ferguson and some other jazz bands. He wanted to write for films, and he got into it the hard way. You got to break into that. You got to do some really bad films, and just bad money, terrible. To get your foot in the door, and gradually you get better work. Jay hired me to do all the electronics and keyboard work. His first film job was for a film called Maniac, which possibly could be the worst film ever made. I can't get too deep in the story. You've only got till 5 o'clock, right? It was about a crazy guy who just went around killing people, and never twice the same way.
Oh, lovely!
And he didn't have a budget, for a larger band. So I think there were only 3 musicians on it. I was doing almost all of it, including screeches and scary noises. When Joe Spinell would slice somebody's throat or scalp them, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. We laughed every day.
I bet. Exciting times.
Jay did. He went from there. He got some better ones. He made more contacts. Moved to Hollywood. He did several Chuck Norris films. And each time he was flying me out to California to do all his electronic realization from that. And then one day I got a call from his agent to come over and audition to score a Star Trek TV show.
Wow.
One of them, and they'd see how it worked out. And they did it, and I was out there working on a film for him, so he had me come along with my Mini Moog, and no, I'm sorry, it wasn't a Mini Moog. I had a sampler with me, and I had a sample of a whale.
Huh. Okay.
And he had me in there to do, I had the music in front of me. Every time that was needed, I would push one key, and there would be a whale noise.
Interesting. Wow.
And he got the job. They hired him, and he did that for 14 years.
Wow.
Lost in space for 14 years, as Jay puts it. Jay was great, very, very talented, and he's retired now and living on a boat off the coast of Mexico.
Wonderful. Oh, that sounds lovely, actually.
And he still writes. He does some producing, and he goes to Star Trek conventions and puts music together. But that was one person. There was another director who's in Florida now that I did some film work for, and I actually did an orchestral score for one of his films.
The scoring part, Pete, when did you start doing that? I know you started with the French horn and then went to the synthesizer, but when did you actually start composing and scoring?
Oh, during the 70s, because I was writing a lot. All the TV clients, I was writing a lot for television, promotional TV spots, commercials sometimes, because I had friends who owned commercial production houses, advertising houses. And, I would do some work, do some long-form stuff. There was a period where Jay Chataway was, he was so swamped with the writing, to meet a deadline, he would take some of the longer suspense cues and say, Pete, you compose this one. Mm-hmm. It was really coming from all directions. It wasn't until the end of the 80s that I decided, maybe I should do a solo album. I should do my own stuff.
Yeah.
In 1989, that's the first time I did it.
And you did. What was your first solo album?
It was called Party in the Basement.
I love it.
It was for a wonderful record label, Gramavision, which unfortunately no longer exists. It was an art label, but a very well respected one, and they had some really good people on the label. John Scofield was on the label for a while.
Nice, yeah. This time, and I've talked with you, and I pretty much follow your career. I did not realize, Pete, that you were awarded the Army Commendation Medal for writing the official military band arrangement for the U.S. Infantry song.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Congratulations on that, although I'm sure it was a bit ago, but I
have no idea where the medal is. It's around someplace.
Yeah.
I joke with people, you hang around long enough, you get to do everything.
Yeah.
That was, it sounds great, and the medal is real. It was, the weird part of it is that I know what you're thinking of. It's not that song. It's a song called Follow Me. That is the official infantry song, and nobody knows about it except commanding generals who want to hear it. Mm-hmm. And I was assigned to arrange it for band and male chorus.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, that's great. I never knew that.
And I got a medal for it.
Wow. Well, congratulations on that medal. I hope you dig it up sometime and take a look at it and put it up on your desk.
It was weird. This is Vietnam era, and it was the same medal that some guy who charges a machine gun nest or something would also get that medal. So I thought it was very inappropriate, but
right.
Well, what can I say?
Right. But you got it, so accept it, and it's a good thing that you did. And you also had some time with Paul Simon and your involvement with one of his very well-known songs. If you talk about that for a minute, please.
This should be late in the evening, maybe. Not Salisbury. I'm thinking Genesis. No. Come on. I know what it is. I'm listening to it in my head. I can't get the name of it. Hate that. During the time that I toured with Paul, amazing band he had, and he changed that. This is before he started with the African bands. He completely changed what he was doing. The band at that time was in the late 70s, going into 1980. We did all over the world, but we toured internationally and the U.S. quite a bit.
Scarborough Fair, that's what I'm thinking of.
I'm sorry, what? Scarborough Fair?
Yes.
Oh, that was actually before my time with Paul. That's back to Simon and Garfunkel. So, but this was Paul solo, and he had done a film. The name of the film is escaping me now. But I played on some of that, and then he had to go out to support it, and also they of course released an album with the music from it. With some great songs from that album, and the album was doing well, but Paul had to get out on the road and support it and to play live, and he put together the band. The core of the band was the band that did the film, and some of the guys are in the film, and that it's a kind of situation that I look back on so fondly. Steve Gadd was playing drums. My brother was playing bass. Richard T., who was one of my idols, was playing piano. I was playing utility keyboards. And of course, Richard is gone. Eric Gale, marvelous guitar player, very influential, who was also gone now. Eric was doing that. Horn section, Howard Johnson was playing there, and there's George Young. Of course, Howard is gone, and not starting at who's gone. 2020 has been.
It's
like it's not over yet.
No, it's not.
Anyway, that band, there was a big hit on the record that was called "Late in the Evening."
Yeah.
And of course, we did that, and the audience would be up and dancing in the aisles, and that's it. It was that was like a musical Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
The way I used to think of the band.
Right. Pete,
and of course, touring with my brother was a special treat.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Of course,
touring and making rock and roll money doesn't hurt.
Doesn't hurt at all. Yeah, no, because now you guys are doing a little different stint, you and your brother Tony.
Jazz.
I have one question. Is there one country that you haven't been to that you always wanted to tour in, that you wanted to go on tour to, that you just haven't been to?
I don't know. I don't think so. If you had asked me a little while ago, I would have said China.
Yeah.
But I did a little while ago have an opportunity to go to China and tour with a band there. Not my own band. The Chinese. There's a Chinese blues singer. Remember the name of Ling Zhang?
Oh yeah, sure.
He's great. I assume he was singing the blues because I don't understand Chinese. But he's also a great bass player. And he had come over here to record his album, which he did with myself and John Tropea, and Lenny White was on that also. And when he wanted to support the album, he wanted to bring us over. He didn't have the finances to do that. The dollar is, at least it was, very strong against the Chinese yen, and what he could afford to pay us was not realistic at all.
Right.
And that coincided for me with the Levin Brothers tour in Japan. And I told him about it. I said, "Listen, I'm going to be in Japan. I'm an hour and a half flight away from Beijing." And he said, "Come on over. I can't pay you much, but I'll cover all your expenses, and we'll tour." And so I toured China with his band for 3 weeks. I had a blast. An amazing country. I could do an hour show with you just talking about
China. Yeah.
There are places that I wanted to get to that I wasn't able to as a tourist. So I'm hoping I can get back there reasonably soon.
Right.
He's working on a new album, and I've been doing piano and organ tracks and sending them to China for him to put on.
It's amazing. So many musicians have been doing that over the last year because that's all you've been able to do. Right? Yeah.
I do it a lot. I'm actually pretty busy doing that.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Which is great. And busy with, so excited that the Levin Brothers, start talking about, I know you guys came out with your release, I think, 2014 originally, the first Levin Brothers album?
Tony, yep, that was the beginning.
Yep.
It was our thought together was Tony and I had never done a project from scratch before. He played on my albums, I played on his albums. We played together for other people, but we never came up with an idea and just did that. Tony was fascinated by 50s cool jazz.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, we should do that, because we listened to that stuff when we were kids. So let's write some music like that. And we did, like all musicians. I said, well, hey, we got these tunes. Let's record. Let's make an album. And we did. It was recorded up here in the Catskills.
NRS Scapatito.
Yep. We recruited Jeff Siegel, a wonderful local drummer we worked with a lot, and I had been working with a lot. I introduced Tony to him. Tony loved his playing right away. We had other players temporarily come and go. They just played on parts of the album. Eric Lawrence, a sax player.
Mm-hmm.
David Spinoza, a great guitar player, played at a couple of tracks for us. But it was mostly the trio. And we did it, we made a period piece out of it. I mean, we wore suits and ties all the time, and pork pie hats.
And even while you were recording, that's
the first day, because there were photographers.
Photographers, yeah. But that's what I loved about that. I don't know if you guys are going to do that this tour, but it looked so elegant and so classy.
We're not. Over a period of several albums, and I guess what is now our seventh year of touring, we're doing more contemporary music. We're doing a lot of covers of pop music.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there'll always be at least one King Crimson song in there.
Well, there must be, of course.
And our versions of it. We were still doing jazz versions of whatever we do. Scarborough Fair, Paul Simon. We've done a couple of Steely Dan pieces. I don't think they're in the set list this year. What else? As we travel, I remember we went to South America. We were going to do Argentina. And I don't know if you know much about Argentinian tango.
No,
huge.
I don't.
It's huge. And it's the image of the hokey stuff we get here, like Hernando's Hideaway and those old hits from the 50s. Nothing like that. It's classical music that people dance to, in essence. And the biggest, the most famous tango musician and proponent of the style, the genre, was Astor Piazzolla, who was an accordion player and band leader, world famous. And we realized that we were going to be playing in his hometown. And I'm thinking, you know what we should do? We should do a tango piece. And I looked through his repertoire, and I picked one of his tunes, and we did it. We played it, to an audience who was kind of puzzled because we took solos on it. And Astor didn't do that, but we got it. We got a nice round of applause. But we were in the middle of it, and I was thinking, what if they hate this?
Well, that's okay. You have to try it. Unless you try, and of course, the audience didn't hate it. How could they hate anything that the Levin brothers play?
Do they still throw tomatoes at performers?
No,
I don't know. But they liked it. They were so fine. But we would do stuff like that. We went to Japan and found a fairly well-known Japanese folk song. We did a jazz version of that. But doing covers became so the band has changed a lot, and we don't wear suits and ties anymore.
Oh, bummer.
Which makes traveling easier.
Yes.
And we have to keep clean shirts.
Yeah.
And we're playing a lot more. I don't think we're doing anything now from the 2014 album anymore.
No.
But we're doing a lot of new material. We're rehearsing now with a whole bunch of new material.
Which, of course, you have coming out. I also want to mention the Levin Brothers album called Special Delivery, which I've literally worn out.
Oh.
And I bet my favorite track on the album is the theme from Cinema Paradiso. Which
is, again, another weird cover that Tony and I would put our heads together. We were both classically trained.
Yep.
And went through great music programs in
Eastman.
high school and college. Tony went to Eastman of Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
So we had very eclectic tastes, which go from Spike Jones to Tchaikovsky to whatever. And Ennio Morricone is my favorite film composer, and that film, Cinema Paradiso, is a gem. The music is so beautiful, and Tony was using an electric cello with the band at the time, and he said, "Well, this would make a great cello piece. Let's try it." And we did it. We played it classical, cello and piano, and then Jeff would kick in with a straight ahead groove, and we take solos on it. That's what we did.
I play it so often. It's a 7-minute track. You don't hear 7-minute tracks on the radio all that often, but that is typically the track I play when I play the Levin Brothers. I just absolutely love your version of it. So you guys, now the Levin Brothers, you got some tour dates coming up. How exciting. First tour in 14, 15 months? I guess you've been,
The
right?
The last time the four of us were in a room together, I remember it well. It was January 26th, 2020.
Wow.
I remember it because I was at Daryl's house, and I had them record it and film us. We just finished mastering a live album from that show, and that's going to be sent out to be duplicated a little while, and we'll have it on the tour.
That is so wonderful. You have tour dates. You can go visit the levinbrothers.com as well as the Facebook page of the Levin Brothers as well. You posted the dates. You're starting Wednesday, June 9th at the Falcon in Marlborough and ending Saturday, June 26th in Woodstock at the beautifully renovated Bearsville Theater. And
we're so looking forward to that. It's going to be great.
Yeah. Have you been in there yet, Pete?
I have. Yep. Robert Fraser, our friend who's managing and running the place now, he gave me a tour, and it's beautiful. They spent a lot of money in all the right places.
Yes.
They did all the right stuff.
Yeah. And how about that green room, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the murals on the wall that they painted, it's just fixing everything because the place was falling apart.
Yeah.
They just renovated completely, millions of dollars.
Oh yeah.
Imagine. And it's a beautiful, beautiful venue. And the sad part is, just when they were finished and ready to open up, it was the pandemic hit, and they had to lock the doors.
Lock the doors, exactly. So you've got a few tour dates. Let me see here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 tour dates coming up, and soon in June. And I'm guessing, I think things are opening up. I know you're in New York and Pennsylvania, but I always recommend, and I'm guessing you do too, get reservations early because of restricted seating. Things probably will sell out rather quickly.
I think it's going to change. At least I hope it will, because New York State has opened up a lot of situations. The individual venues are going to have to work out what they want to do to stay safe. But typically, Daryl's house, which I'm not sure what their capacity is, 120, 150, somewhere in that zone, because the seating is spread out. They announced they were only going to sell 40 tickets.
Wow.
And they're gone. But with the restrictions lifted, they may be able to sell more tickets. But our entire tour, every venue is like that. And,
are any going to be live streamed also, Pete?
At least one.
Okay.
Bearsville, I know will do it. Daryl's maybe, the Falcon maybe. I should know more of the details. I don't know. There are 2 of the gigs in Pennsylvania, and one is in Delaware. And I don't know much about the situation. The places that we played before, but in our area, Hudson Valley is Bearsville and Daryl's and the Falcon.
And the Falcon.
3 venues that we love. We're also playing the Strand Theater up north in Hudson Falls. And, I don't know if your audience reaches up there, but
and it doesn't matter because people tune in after the show. Hudson Falls, New York, that'll be on Thursday, June 17th. You'll also be in Syracuse on Friday, June 18th, and in Sellersville, Pennsylvania, June 10, June 12 in Delaware, and also June 13 in Kennett Square. You guys are all over the place. You got a nice little tour bus taking you around, or you get in the van?
No, Tony just got a new car.
Oh, nice.
Said, no, I want to drive it. I want to take it on the road. Because he's about to go out traveling with King Crimson. He's going to be gone for months. He wants to drive his new car. So he said, I'm driving on the tour.
Okay, that's
I said,
perfect.
well, we have expenses. Right. So I said, okay, I'll drive too.
Right. Split it
all
up.
right, so with our two SUVs, we'll make it work. And then Jeff Champa said, no, I'm going to drive too. I got relatives in
Well, I was just going to ask you, it's obviously you and your brother Tony as part of the Levin brothers. Who's doing this tour with you?
Jeff Siegel, who has been with us since 2014.
Yeah.
I introduced him on stage as the Levin brother from another mother.
So
and
true.
The guitar player Jeff Champa, who toured with us in the end of in December in 2019, and then through January of 2020. And the story, like all musicians, 2020, the disaster slowly became evident. But we were supposed to go to South America, back to the Far East again, and we were going to go to Europe for the first time. And everything canceled. So January 26, 2020 was the last time we played together, but we recorded it.
Yeah. And that's great. And now, when people go to your shows, starting on June 9th at the Falcon in Marlborough, you will have a CD there to sell.
We'll have them back by then.
Yep.
And definitely all of these places make reservations.
Yeah.
Because they're with such a limited audience, they sell out very quickly.
Yeah. The times of walking.
Hopefully because they like us, but partially because people just want to get out and hear music.
Right. Yeah.
These are really nice venues, all of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they are going to sell out.
Yeah, they definitely are, and especially with the limited capacity, you can't just walk in anymore. It just doesn't work because things just sell out. When you only have 50, 60 seats to sell, that sells out, rather quickly. So
there's another one actually I wanted to mention. It's on the in the category of things opening up and selling quickly. There's a new project I've been starting with some local people. Our jazz singer Terry Rozier and John Mennigan, her husband, is a great bass player, and Jeff Siegel is also doing that. And wonderful percussionist friend of his, Nani Assis, who's coming up in. He's actually coming up tomorrow to this area. He lives in Florida now. And we're playing at Cafe Lena up in Saratoga
tomorrow
Springs.
night, and your quintet is called Sharp 5. Is that correct?
Yep. We had a little contest among ourselves to come up with the name. It might change when the album comes up, but we're going to be recording for the next 3 or 4 days after that.
And you're also playing a Sunday brunch this Sunday, May 9th, Mother's Day. Mother's Day brunch at Daryl's House Club in Pauling.
Yep. So it'll be interesting because we were going to start rehearsing, and then Nani got delayed. So our first get together will be at Cafe Lena. So it'll be magic. Mistakes that will never happen again.
Exciting. And does Cafe Lena live stream tomorrow night?
I don't know.
They usually do. I know Chuck Lamb has been doing a lot up there, and every time I see Cafe Lena do something, they typically go live. So maybe if listeners are interested, check out the Cafe Lena Facebook page and see. But Sharp 5.
Nice, intimate little venue.
Yeah.
You ask great questions. Like, are they streaming? I don't know.
Well, we'll find out. I guess we'll find out. I look
question.
forward.
Where did you dig up the clams?
Oh my God! Well, you know what? I was looking at one of the websites with you, and the clams. So it said here your favorite collaboration was the clams with your brother bassist Tony Levin and drummer Steve Gadd, a Spike Jones tribute band that produced the top 40 hit single "Close to You." That's now a cult classic. Well, I had to follow that up, Pete. So I get right onto YouTube and I listened to it. I'm like, this is too good not to share. So I put it on the LocalMotion Facebook page, and I had to start off the show today with it. It was just...
Oh, I heard the tail end of that. There was quite a session. It was engineered by another Eastman School of Music graduate, Dixon Van Winkle, who is he is now a multiple Grammy winner recording engineer. He has his own studio in Canada, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It was a piano player, Mike Holmes, was on that session. And Steve, we got to see Steve didn't know what we were doing, but he wanted to do something different. So he took a pair of brushes and was keeping time on a New York City phone book. And somehow Dixon recorded it and made it sound great, a great groove.
It just really was. At first, I was like, when it first opens up, and it's only like a 2-minute, less than 3-minute,
Yes, that's 3 minutes of complete insanity.
Yeah, and when you first listen to it, like the first 10 seconds, I'm like, the Levins are doing this? And then the whole thing gets just a little crazy and fun, and I'm like, okay, this is more like it. It was just...
There are many stories around that. That was my lead singing debut, by the way. I'll have you know. I thought I'd get a lot of work from that, but I didn't get any calls. I don't know. I can do it.
You guys got to resurrect that. Get Steve
on the... We were touring, my brain, 2007 maybe, I'm guessing. Tony had a band at the time. It was a Tony Levin band. Wonderful band. 2 keyboard players, Larry Fast, who I've mentioned before, brilliant, and myself. Jesse Gress was playing guitar. He was a local Woodstock guy, and he's Todd Rundgren's music director and lead guitar player. And Jerry Murata, who we all know, was playing drums. And it was very eclectic. We did a lot of music that Tony had composed. And at one point, we'd been touring for a couple of years with that band. And Tony came to me and said, could we do the Clams live?
Yeah.
Well, I think so. I mean, all those sound effects, we did them, we collected cowbells and bird calls and slide whistles and glass crashing. We just put a bunch of glass in a bag and dropped it on cue for the recording.
Fun.
But my son is an audio engineer. I had him go into his studio archives in New York and pull out. I gave him a list of sound effects. We gave all the sound effects to Larry Fast. Larry put him in his keyboard so he could just press a key and get all of the duck calls and the screams, and the gunshots, and all the craziness. And I sang it. We all had kazoos, and we did the kazoo solo in unison. And we practiced it, and we debuted it at B.B. King's.
Wow.
In New York.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're doing the set, and I think Tony was doing the emceeing at the time before I started doing it. But he announced that this was a collaboration. Pete and I doing this, but we had one previous collaboration. We want to play this. It's a love song. You're going to love this. Everybody, please pay attention. Then we launch into this craziness, and we did it well. We got the sound. I had a banjo at the time, and I loaned it to Jesse Gress. He was playing banjo, and I completely hooked it up. And when it was over, people just kind of stared at us, and they applauded politely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And we're thinking, no, God, you guys should be rolling on the floor. Wait a minute, but nobody understood that we were joking.
Right. It was
That was the best way I can analyze it, because Spike Jones, his recordings, it sounds like a complete lunacy, and your imagination would run wild. And they had to match that when they played live, which is why they did the costumes and the craziness and the midgets and the giants. But our hit, Close to You, again, it sounds crazy, and you'd only have to try to imagine, who are these people? What do they look like? What planet are they from?
Yeah.
But we did it at B.B. King's. It was 5 New York studio musicians on stage doing this weird stuff, and it wasn't funny.
Mm-hmm.
That record that you just played, they didn't realize it was funny.
Really?
I'm going, wow.
Right.
Yeah, I tried once more. We tried at one more show. Up in where was it? Somewhere upstate. But it wasn't too far away, and my wife had come to the show. And I announced to the audience that I was going to sing a love song. My wife is here, so I'm dedicating this to my wife. And we launched into our version of Close to You. And again, we got polite applause. And so we took it out of the set list.
It was too much for people to handle. They didn't quite get it. But listen, the Levin brothers, and I'm about to premiere this track that you were so kind to send me. Please talk to me about Out of Darkness.
It's actually a piece that I composed 10, 12 years ago, something like that, and I recorded on one of my own albums. And over the last few weeks, Tony and I were casting around for new material we could add. With all the craziness going on with COVID and health, and not being able to walk out of your house, neither one of us was in a good composing groove. Mm-hmm. And I realized, I have all these things. Let's try them. And so we're actually doing several of my older pieces, and that's one of them. And we did that on in the last tour, which was most of December and January, passed in 2019, 2020, and we shifted it almost immediately to open the show with it.
We're gonna premiere it here. This is off the lead track off the upcoming album, right? That will be released at your shows, and it's only able to be purchased at your shows. The new music.
At this point, yeah, we're not sure what we're going to do with it.
Right.
So we're doing a limited run. But this opened the show at Daryl's house in January 2020.
Wow, wonderful! Yeah, well, thank you so much for sending this. And I'm a huge Pete Levin fan. Anybody that knows me knows I play the heck out of your music here, and can't say enough about your talent.
We're all Rita Ryan fans.
Oh please! It's never about me, Pete. It's about the music, and it's about the musicians. So I'm just here with a voice.
We're out there and we're looking for work, but it's the people like you that do so much to keep the music alive.
Well, it's
very much appreciated.
It's been a tough year, and the artists and the arts are the last pieces of the puzzle to come back together here. So throughout the whole year, I've been encouraging people to, if somebody's live streaming, support that. Go to the websites, buy some merchandise if you can, and just let's somehow keep it alive, because it's been such a tough year. But there's a little light at the end of the tunnel, it feels like. And with this beautiful sign of the Levin brothers actually going out on the road safely.
Isn't that something?
We're
going, wow.
Nice. Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Well, I will definitely see you at one of the shows for sure. 100%. I have to. It would be crazy for me not to. And thank you for your time. I'm glad that we're coming out of this somehow, Pete, and I really do look forward to seeing you. I'm fully vaccinated, and hopefully we can actually do a real hug in person sometime soon.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Pete,
tell my wife.
Oh, I don't think she'll mind with a hug. We're good.
Okay.
We're good. All right, Pete, listen, thank you for your time today. I'm going to play some of your music, and I'll see you soon, my friend. Stay safe.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Mr. Pete Levin here on 91.3 WVKR Independent Radio, Poughkeepsie, New York. Let's premiere this track off the upcoming release of the Levin Brothers' new live album right here, right now, 91.3. 91.3 WVKR. Brand spanking new. Actually, I should say it's the premiere of the unreleased live album coming out from the Levin brothers. This was recorded back in January of 2020 at Daryl's House Club in Pauling. The title is Out of Darkness, a tune composed by Pete Levin, my guest today here on Local Motion. If you missed part of or all of the interview and are just now tuning in, I'll be uploading it tonight on the Local Motion YouTube channel, as well as podcast, wherever you may get your streaming podcasts from. Check out Local Motion and the Local Motion Facebook page. Levin Brothers will be doing a tour starting Wednesday, June 9th in Marlborough at the Falcon. Another area show they'll be doing is Wednesday, June 16th at Daryl's House Club in Pauling. And the third area show will be at the beautifully renovated Bearsville Theater on Saturday, June 26th. You can go to thelevinbrothers.com, PeteLevin.com, get info about those dates and book your tickets really quickly because things might still be at somewhat of a limited seating, which is what I'm guessing, and will likely, if not undoubtedly, sell out rather quickly. I want to play one more tune by Pete Levin, and let's take a listen now to a track. If you're a regular listener, you may have heard this before. One of my favorite releases by Pete Levin is Mobius, and this is track 1 from his Mobius release. Let's take a listen to Promises by Pete Levin here on 91.3 WVKR. Pete Levin, track called Promises. The release Mobius came out in 2017. PeteLevin.com. This album is something that I play on a pretty regular basis, and this was recorded and mixed at NRS Recording Studio by Scott Petito up in Catskill, New York. And Pete does a lot of recordings there. Thank you again, Pete Levin, for being my guest here on LocalMotion during the 4 o'clock hour. And I'll leave the show with a track of theirs as well. In the meantime now, if you're just tuning in, you are tuned into LocalMotion. I'm your host, Rita Ryan, here each and every Wednesday from 4 to 6 p.m., giving you music of the Hudson Valley, musicians that live here, those that come to perform in our venues, and those coming to record in our world-class area recording studios. These next two tracks I'm going to be playing are with musicians that will be performing live this weekend at the Falcon in Marlborough. You can always make a reservation at liveatthefalcon.com. Let's start it off with this gentleman who'll be there Friday night. He was a guest on my show here a few months back. Let's take a listen now to Mr. Joe Louis Walker.
It's two trains running, ain't but one run my way. Ain't no one runs at midnight, at the break of day, at the break of day, at the break of day, at the break of day. Come on, y'all. Well, now you know it ain't none of my business. Just ain't right. You let your husband leave in the morning, your boy come till late at night, till late at night, till late at night, till late at night. Lord, 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 somebody help me sing them blues. Well, now they say she ain't no good, but you know that you do. I know what you do. What she do? I know what she do. She's alright, she's alright. She's alright, she's alright. She's alright, she's alright. Yeah, alright with me.
Will you love me? Yeah, yeah. Will you love me? will you love me? Will you love me like you used to? Will you love me the way that I loved you? Will you love me while we're young? Will you love me, darling, for the song, the song? Sun will rise like it says, but your love is something I won't forget. These nights too dark to see, I need your love, baby, to guide me. Until then I'll just stumble around, hoping your arms is where I'm bound. Will you love, will you love, will you love me? Yeah, yeah. Will you love, will you love, will you love me? Will you love me like you used to? Will you love me the way that I love you? Yeah. Will you love me while we're young? Will you love me, darling, for the song and song? Thank you so much.
91.3 WVKR, Dylan Doyle, Live at the Falcon is the title of the release, Will You Love Me? Dylan will be performing there tomorrow, live at thefalcon.com. Make your reservation. Dylan is a young, early 20s, maybe 21, 22, hell of a guitarist, singer, songwriter. DylanDoyleBand.com. Tomorrow at the Falcon. On Friday at the Falcon, we can have you making a reservation for Joe Louis Walker. We heard a track by him on his that'll be released on his upcoming CD. It's titled 2 Trains, a Muddy Waters tune, and this is his version of it that will be released on his new upcoming CD. Joe Louis Walker, the king of the blues there. Check out Joe Louis Walker. He was so much fun to interview on air a few months back, and I think I'm going to upload that interview again on the LocalMotion Facebook page probably tomorrow. If anybody wants to take a listen, I highly recommend checking him out in person. Joe Louis Walker, live at the Falcon this Friday. You can make reservations online or just give them a call. Live music is coming back, folks. It is. And speaking of live music coming back, this wonderful person, musician, artist, and she'll be back at the Falcon at the end of June. And I'm going to send this one out today, this track, to a Facebook friend. And her name is Marilyn. Marilyn, this one is for you. Enjoy it.
One day I told myself I would do everything I thought I should. Good for you and good for me. What happened next I really did not see. One day I bought myself a book. I told myself I'd learn to cook. Cook for you I really did not see. Little witch come to my lips, said I should make a go of it. One day I told myself I would do everything I thought I should. Good for you and good for me. What happened next I really did not see. One day the rumors were all true, and who's ashamed to be with who? Good for you and good for me. What happened is we really don't agree. Little witch come to my lips, said I should make a go of it. Rumors were all true. Now who's ashamed to be with who? Good for you and good for me. What happened next I really did not see. Little witch come to my lips, said I must make a go of it.
You're selling, honey, and thanks the same. Knock, knock, there's no one home. I've been locked inside forever much too long. I don't need what you're selling, baby, move along. Knock, knock, you can't come in. I'm not sitting around waiting for something new to get the same reaction that I get from you. You're just a world of trouble that I can't unload. So turn around, honey, you can hit the road. You can't take your business to someone else. I don't know what you're selling, I can't help myself. You can knock, knock, you can't come in, oh no. Last time I saw you, girl, the price was right. You took my last dollar like a thief in the night.